Any discussion here?
I have a series of questions, if I may, so please bear with me. The original statement that we received mentioned that the initial setup would range anywhere from $50,000 to $90,000. However, we received follow-up correspondence in the form of an estimate or informal bid, if you will, for the amount of $101,395. Because my question is it safe to assume that the $101,395 is the accurate startup fee? Is that what we would go with in terms of a number to talk about?
I believe, and Dr. Cates can assist with this, but what we did was we put information together, and initially what we tried to do is say what would the ballpark figure be, but then we did ask people as far as proposals to give us a greater detail so that it was not just an estimate. And I believe, Dr. Cates, we've received another one that is at half this cost.
We have received two additional estimated expenditure budget for the project. They did range from one $54,000 and one mid-70s. In response to your question, Mr. Robertson, the 101 includes a large amount of consultation fees. It includes a large amount of maintenance fees, and includes a 5-camera configuration as compared to 4. That were just possible examples that we had gathered from other villages and school districts who had conducted this possible configuration.
No. You want me to?
Thank you. So then, as we move forward and we, let's say we were to entertain this idea, we incurred an expense of anywhere from 50 to 101, if you will. What would the annual cost be then thereafter to maintain this staff operation, so on and so forth?
I believe you're looking at maybe $1,000.
So the startup fees could range anywhere from 54 to 100 or so, and then we'd be looking at about $1,000 annually thereafter.
Right, this is the information we have to date. I believe there's other bids out there, correct?
We are continuing to pursue this. We did not pursue anything formal as much as it was a discussion, but we wanted to have some general estimates. But we did contact villages and school districts who had used these companies before for this exact purpose. So that was how we came up with our cost estimates and the companies that we selected.
So the $1,000 expenditure that would be on an annual basis, do we know what that would be for?
What we would look at having someone that would be operating the cameras, a producer, as they say. So I think then you would look at probably an hourly rate for that.
And then would that type of system encompass broadcasting of meetings via cable or internet or both? And if so, would they be recorded or live? Do we have those parameters or those details by chance?
Actually, it could be both. I mean, the internet and it could be the cable as well. Your other question, Mr. Robertson?
So it could be any of that.
It
The
could
cost
be
would vary depending on what route would be looked at. Is that?
I don't know that the cost would vary that much.
No, the same recording onto a DVD would be the one that could be posted onto our website. It would also be the same DVD that would be sent to the cable companies for the local government access channels. The same recorded version, just displayed in a different format. The live streaming would also occur, live, but would not. It requires a software package, but would not require any ongoing costs beyond the production of the video, if you will.
All right. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. I had a comment that would be a slight tangent to this, but I didn't want to dominate the conversation and shift the focus if anybody else has any questions.
I have a question, but if you feel like your other part...
Mine, I'll wait till my...
would make more sense before my question. It's a broad question, actually. I appreciate all the information, so thank you for taking the time out to get that. But I guess some of the questions that I would ask my colleagues in the school is, what is our purpose of videotaping? And why, if we choose to entertain this idea, why would we want to do that? And why would we not? I mean, I'm kind of, it was brought to the attention and the information came, but we haven't really had any discussion as to why, how come, what would be the advantages. So that's all. I was just kind of looking for some feedback versus just pure factual data, if you will.
I would like to address that because we talked about that a couple of years ago when we redid this room and expanded it. And at that time, one of the things we talked about was to make sure that this room was ready to be able to handle recordings if the board chose to do that. And if I recall correctly, I think with Dr. Thornton, I think it was supposed to be under $30,000 that we were looking at because everything else should be in our wiring and whatever.
Right.
I can speak from my opinion and some of the things that were brought up at the time and what was pointed out today. It's a matter of communication. I think it's really important. We had an excellent presentation on Project Lead the Way. How many parents really know about Project Lead the Way? And there could be so many that could learn about it and the benefits or things that, kids don't tell their parents everything. Sometimes the parents have no idea what's going on. But I think that's important to present that. We've had other excellent presentations. I mean, we've got a great staff. We've acknowledged that. We have great administrators, and they've done excellent presentations to us. We've got a tremendous amount of people here tonight. We don't always have this amount of people. So I think when we're talking about transparency, communication, openness, we need to be able to do this. If the cost is reasonable, I really think we should be able to do this. It's a wonderful thing for the community. Other school districts can see what we're doing. Other communities can see what we're doing. And I think especially businesses, because they're supporting the community. And maybe they want to participate. Maybe it's the foundation, or maybe participate in Project Lead the Way. We don't know who's out there that wants to, help us offer their services. So to me, that's where I see it being important and being visible.
Mr. Robertson, did you want to?
Please. I think by and large, in many aspects, District 211 sets the bar in terms of setting examples for other districts. And I think that when staff took a look at the 46 districts and determined that or concluded that only 8 of those districts currently televise board meetings, I think that's something that we could take with a grain of salt and say, you know what, we can move forward and set an example. Oftentimes I've been approached by people, I would say probably more so during my campaigning time, but nonetheless approached by people who said, we really want to see transparency, we want to know things that are taking place in the district, but at the same time, we want to be cognizant of the taxpayer dollars. So once we start seeing price tags of, $50,000, $100,000 associated with televising board meetings, I think we begin to raise some questions and say, okay, what's the cost-benefit analysis to this? Is this something that's worth it or not? I was approached by Councilman Delmar with the Village of Palatine Council, who offered the possibility of using the Village Hall building boardroom meeting area for our District 211 meetings. It was agreed upon unanimously at this past Monday at the Village Council, and the village manager has reached out to the superintendent. We see this fax documentation here. I also spoke with Reed just to wrap my head around some solid figures. And what he had mentioned is that they already have the infrastructure in place. If we were to consider, even on a trial basis, using their facility, even if it's for like 2 meetings, to see how it goes, how it works, what kind of feedback would we receive from the public, from staff, so on and so forth, we can see if it's even worth doing. We can try it out and see. They pay currently $3,000 for an entire year, and they meet 3 times a month. we meet 2 times a month, sometimes not even that, it would cost us less than $2,000 a year if we were to take a look at using their facility on a permanent basis. There might be some inconveniences associated with that, there might be some downsides, but I guess my preliminary thoughts would be, you know, are you going to go online and buy a brand new pair of shoes without trying them on? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not so sure that's the best route. Why don't we try this on and see if it's even something that's worth it? Let's take a look at it. Maybe asking Dr. Robb to enter into some information gathering conversations with the village manager to find out some specifics. You know, what are dates that we can take a look at doing this on a trial basis? Is this something that's feasible? Give me some hard, exact numbers to work with, and then come back to the board again with that information. I understand this concept, it might be a little bit outside of the box, but if we're looking at upwards of $100,000 as opposed to $2,000, I think it's something at least worth taking a look at, even if it's only on a part-time basis, and then we can revisit the topic after we've had an experience to be broadcasted and troubleshoot from there. Those are just my thoughts at this point.
Any other?
I was just going to say thank you. I appreciate the dialogue. And if I read correctly, in that same facsimile was also that they could possibly bring people here, and if we're going to possibly entertain outside of the box ideas, perhaps that would be something else that we could ask the questions a little bit more to. If we were to bring somebody in-house, what would be the cost associated to that? Because perhaps maybe if it was a little more, it might be worth the convenience of coming here versus changing a location. So it could be food for thought and conversation for another time.
I would prefer that, you know, maybe since he's extending the offer, if we were to explore this, to ask them to come here, because this is the setting that, you know, this is our setting. I like that. I do have a couple of thoughts that I wanted to share since we're discussing this. I mean, we have Harper right across here. I'm wondering if they have AV programs where maybe they have students that are interns that need to be doing something like this. So that could be a possibility. And maybe we need to kind of look a little bit further down the road. We're doing engineering types of things, you know, at our school. Maybe we do need to take a look at, you know, broadcasting, maybe at one of our schools or whatever, because I think at the elementary level, doesn't 15 do something? And I don't know, 54 does.
59 does.
Oh, 59 does? I thought, okay, and 15 doesn't have anything?
I don't know about 15.
Do they have
District 15 does, yes.
Okay, so I mean, there's kids that are coming up that might benefit from something like this. So maybe we need to kind of look at it in the long run, and we could, you know, have our own students developing another type of a career and getting some, you know, hands-on experience.
So just to hitchhike off of that, there was a part in here where the village manager said, I would be happy to quote-unquote donate our employee and equipment for several of your meetings where we could record and then rebroadcast so that you could have a chance to determine feedback from board members and the public. I assume that's what you ladies were referring to, and if everyone concurs, I think it might be advantageous for Dr. Robb to enter into some more specific, what I would call fact-finding conversations with Mr. Otteson to see if we can get some more details on that and see when it would be feasible, what would that look like, you know, that non-committal at this point, but just some additional information, and then we can be presented with that at the next meeting. That's what I would ask if everybody is in support of that.
Are there any other questions or comments? I guess before we probably redo what we did before, if you want to make a motion to provide, you know, the direction that you think you want to go, we'll address that. Before you do that, I guess I'd like to ask Dr. Robb, how much time roughly did you and everyone else put into coming up with the information that we have in front of us here?
Dr. Cates, you'd be better able to answer that because I know Dr. Cates and Keith Sorensen were the people that worked on that.
Yeah, I would guess 25 hours.
Before Mr. Robertson makes the motion, I think this is something important that we really need to take a look at. And I know once too often, a motion has come before the board that I think is important, and it's gotten shot down. When then I've left the meeting saying, you know what, maybe we should have tabled it because we needed a little bit more information. So I'm wondering if maybe we just need a little more information before we come with some kind of a motion. I mean, we've talked about a number of things.
I guess let me clarify my suggestion. Not necessarily a motion to do something other than, you know, the last, or however many meetings ago when it was, we just had the general concept of, we'll provide the superintendent some direction to go explore this a little bit. And we did that once, and we've been provided with all that information. So I guess at this point, I'm suggesting that probably we tighten that up a little bit, formalize it, that if we are asking the superintendent to go look into something more specific than all the information that she's already brought back, which is quite a bit of information, I guess let's provide her the very specific direction, because apparently we didn't do that last time, and so we don't have all the information presumably we want. And I would prefer not to waste everyone's time and try and be respectful of that, because first priority for them is to educate the kids, and this has nothing to do with that. And so I'd like to give her the exact direction that we want, if that's what we want to do, and move along. Instead of,
I can put it in the form of a motion. I have no problem putting it in the form of a motion if that's what you prefer. I certainly don't object to that. I just want to preface any sort of motion by saying that I'm not looking to waste time either. And I certainly didn't ask anybody to spend 25 hours. If people put in that kind of time, I certainly appreciate that, and that shows the dedication to the mission. What I'm simply looking to clarify here is I just want to, I think we needed more information, and if I need to put more emotion,
that's what I'm getting to. If we need more information, let's make the specific motion. And
then
we'll
here's my
send her off to
specific
do that
motion.
if that's what we decide.
I move that Dr. Robb enter into specific fact-finding conversations with Reed Otteson, village manager, to find out more information regarding the quote-unquote donation of his employee and audio-visual equipment to broadcast our board meetings from this room.
Is everyone clear on that motion? Is there a second for that?
I'll second it, but then I would like to amend the motion. We had a lot. I'd like to amend the motion that.
The motion is not yet before the board.
Okay.
We only have a second, so because I would open that up for discussion first.
Okay.
Before you try to change it, because no one's had an opportunity to comment on that yet. Not to be too technical, but I want to give everyone a chance, because otherwise we could just have Mr. Robertson withdraw the motion, and he could add your comments to it, whatever, to make it right the first time, and we don't need to amend it, if everyone's amenable to that.
Okay.
What's easier?
Let's hear your comments, and you will withdraw your motion?
Well, wait, we've got.
Do we have a second on the table?
Yeah.
Yes, there was a second.
So and now we're having discussion?
Discussion.
Okay.
Well, now we'll have discussion.
Sorry, I was trying to clarify it. I was going back and forth, and I apologize for
So
that,
is
Mr.
that.
LeFevre.
It's all right.
Okay, so the second, and we're in discussion.
We're discussion.
Okay.
We had quite a bit of discussion, and Dr. Robb has been great taking some notes. My hope is I would like to expand that motion a little bit and ask Dr. Robb, maybe we could talk to Harper and a couple of these other points to give us just a little bit more information of how this could work, how it could benefit the parents of our community and our entire community. That's where I was going.
I would accept that, so should I just make an amendment to my original motion? Can I do that?
I believe Mrs. Klimkowicz is proposing the amendment.
So I don't have to do it, she just did it for me.
Right.
Okay, so that's.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the amended motion? So it's going to be, and this is my discussion, Village of Palatine expanded to Harper College also.
And whatever was discussions from some of the notes that Dr. Robb has taken. Because I think we gave her a couple of things here, I'm not certain.
For clarification purposes, I believe what I heard was Harper College, and if we possibly had anything in the schools, are current with the community. I think that's where
Someone
the
referenced
underlying
the previously purchased audiovisual equipment for $2 million or something like that. I think that's what.
Well, that's not what I brought up, but I mean, that's something further down the road.
You
But
brought
I
up,
think-
does Harper have audiovisual
Harper?
programs? Could someone come here from the village of Palatine? You talked about broadcasting in District 15.
And I know that previously, and I don't know where the notes are from when we talked about it when Dr. Thornton was here, of the costs that were involved.
Okay.
So maybe that might just be a sidebar kind of research. But
Okay.
I think looking at Harper and, any other
Ms.
source.
Klimkowicz, you mean Harper coming here, possibly?
Yeah, students from
Okay.
Harper may be coming.
All right.
So the motion would now be, Dr. Robb would be directed to enter into fact finding with the Village of Palatine. That motion was amended, and it's
To
to
include
expand
Harper.
into fact finding that includes Harper College.
Correct.
Okay. On the amendment, is there any further discussion? All right. On the amended motion to add Harper into there, a roll call, please.
Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye.
Mr. Brandt? Mrs. Klimkowicz?
Aye.
Mr. LeFevre?
Aye. Okay, now the motion is Dr. Robb will be on fact-finding mission that includes the Village of Palatine and Harper College.
Thank you.
All right, so on that motion, roll call, please.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Robertson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burke?
Aye.
Mr. Brandt? Mr. Gerber?
Aye.
Mrs. Klimkowicz?
Aye.
Mr. LeFevre?
Aye. Okay, that brings us to committee reports. First, we have Northwest Suburban Special Education